there's this like spectre around AI and the spectre's jobs, isn't it? And I guess right now you've got this kind of like weird mood in the whole AI, surrounding the whole AI world, with talks of bubbles and everything. So we've got a packed agenda today. But before we get into that, Alan, how are you doing today? And
yeah, great.
Do a little intro for everybody, please.
Intro. No, good. Thanks for inviting me along, Ben. Yeah, an incredibly interesting topic for both professional and personal reasons, which I'm sure we'll touch on as well, actually. So a little bit about my background, just for everyone who's listening in. I'm similar to Ben, a little bit older, so 30 years in sales and sales leadership. Our paths crossed in Computer Centre many years ago, where I was there 22 years. I ended up leading their public sector business. Since then, I've had my own business. I've been in satellite. Actually, I went to satellite for a while. I ran a PE-backed business. And then last sort of corporate role, as I say, was in cloud. And then what I do is similar to Ben and work alongside Ben from time to time, just coaching leaders and teams to get higher performance, really. That's what I do.
Yeah, get better results. Well, look, thanks, Alan. Great 22 years at Computer Centre. Well done. That should have some like special awards, shouldn't it?
It should do.
Yeah.
I think they were glad I left.
Yeah, they're probably like, oh, when's he gonna go?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, look, Alan, you've done the legwork on the agenda here, so yeah, we'll dive in, get your perspective on each of these stories. We've got World Economic Forum jobs report, Goldman Sachs on how AI is going to impact their global workforce. I had not seen that news story, so thank you for sharing that. Forbes, everyone's sort of having a go at trying to say what's the impact on jobs going to be. And we've got Klarna bringing back jobs after kind of getting rid of them to automate. Microsoft saying 9,000 job roles to go. Salesforce, then on the other hand, investing 6 billion in the UK, IBM 150 billion US investment. That's just on top of everything that's going on in the US around AI right now. And then Stanford actually having a go at who actually wants to get automated and who doesn't out there in the workforce. So thanks so much, Alan. Really interesting topics, and no doubt topics we shall be returning to. But Alan, what's your perspective? Let's get a WEF jobs report first, shall we? And I will move us on. There we go. My slides are working down. It's good.
I thought we'd start with this, really, because it's a bit. I don't know. It's a bit of a wow. Goodness me, is that really how many? It gives me some big numbers here. And as Ben says, everyone's having a go at this, trying to estimate what's going to happen in the workforce. And the fact of the matter is, there's clearly going to be change. I think we're all cognizant of that. But it's not all doom and gloom, is where I've come to from this piece of research I've been doing over the last period. This slide just talks about what the World Economic Forum, their updated results. They tend to do it, I think, biannually. And this is their updated. And what they're really saying, just to explain this, is that over the next decade, there are going to be 92 million jobs displaced from AI. So that's the red down the bottom, 92 million jobs, which is a huge number in actual fact. This is global, obviously. And in the green, what's actually going to happen is there's going to be 170 million jobs created as a result of AI and attributing industries to it. So the net effect, in theory, is a plus 78 million jobs being created. That's a swing of jobs being created. If you put that in sort of human terms, it's about the size of the population of Germany. Jobs being created over the next decade. So in theory, there's a massive opportunity, but clearly, like unfortunately everything, there's going to be winners and losers in this from a personal perspective. People who are going to be displaced from jobs, who maybe are going to have to retrain, and indeed who maybe can't retrain and don't have jobs. And, we'll talk a little bit about that. It's interesting just to substantiate this. Bloomberg reckoned that something like 50% of tasks performed by people can be replaced by AI. That's market research analysts. And in actual fact, we talk about sales a lot, don't we, Ben?
Yeah, we do.
60%, 67% of sales representative jobs can be replaced by AI, Bloomberg reckon. This is a commentary on the back of this report.
Yeah, that's really interesting. World Economic Forum. I mean, it makes me shiver a little bit every time I see their logo. But anyway, but it is interesting. Look, they are having a go. For me, coming into this, I was sort of mulling this over last night, and I guess I have this. My inner limbic brain is like very fearful of AI, right? And should say, no doubt some people listening to this podcast have already had their job role affected. But I do think but then if I kick my rational brain in, and based on what we know about what's being implemented out there in AI, what outcomes are being achieved today, not tomorrow, but today, I think there's a lot of talk of automation, and any time anyone says automation, my job role's gone. But I'd say there's far more augmentation than automation going on right now in the AI industry, and that might change when the AI gets really good. So maybe we get to, what are we on, version 5 of ChatGPT? Maybe when ChatGPT gets to 7 or 8, and we got AGI and all of that, maybe that changes. But it is proving darned hard to automate out an entire person's job, especially when they do more than one thing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were having this conversation the other day, weren't we, Ben? In actual fact that we're all desperately trying to learn about AI and what the impact it may have for both ourselves individually and our customers if we're trying to solve their problems for them and so on and so forth. But actually, we're really, really at the early stage here. And the more you research this, you realize how early on we are, where people are in terms of their adoption curve and really their productivity curve out the back of what they're going to do with it.
Yeah. But there is definitely two sides. So where the World Economic Forum, I appreciate what they've had a go at, is they said job creation. Now, but it's a change in the workforce. Like coding, well, that's been completely changed. Certain aspects of customer services have already become completely changed by AI. And so it's almost like it's taking a look and almost like then repositioning oneself. If you feel like this thing is a threat to you, it's a strategic reposition into where the jobs are going to be growing and that change in the workforce. But let's go to the next slide, next story here, which is Goldman Sachs. What are they saying, Alan?
Yeah, just a few sort of things out of this report. So as I say, there's a lot of these coming out at this moment in time. You can take, there's some astronomical numbers, there's some lower numbers, and what the numbers mean, we don't quite know, but you can just get a feel for it. Really, is the best way to look at these things. So Goldman Sachs suggests that 80% of global work could be automated by AI. That's a really sweeping statement, and it affects 300 million full-time jobs. But to Ben's point, to what effect? The word affecting is quite interesting there, because that's quite a subjective term, isn't it? All of our jobs are going to be affected in some way, shape, or form by AI. So to say 300 million affected, the devil's in the detail, and no one's got to the detail yet because we just don't know. The interesting thing here, though, is that it's the productivity game. I mean, anyone who's been in tech sales, should we say, which Ben and I came from that background, we spoke about productivity with the advent of Microsoft. We've just been talking about it actually before we came into the podcast. The Microsoft productivity suite, as it was known, I don't know whether it's still known now. And there is a feeling, certainly out from Goldman Sachs, that labor productivity in the US and other developed marketplaces, or markets, should we say, will increase by about 15% when fully adopted and incorporated into regular production. And that's the really interesting thing, when fully adopted and in regular production. So it's going to be good for the economy, in theory. That's what Goldman Sachs is saying.
Yeah, it will be, won't it? Because jobs, companies are going to grow. I have yet to meet a chief executive who, when you start talking to them about AI, they're not. Yeah, all of them are talking about growth in market share, growth into pivoting into new markets, new product categories. It's all about growth. Like, none of them are saying, "Oh, I'm going to shrink my workforce and that's how I'm going to succeed." It's I've not met anyone saying that just yet. So the realities on the ground at the moment seem to be that it's all focused on mega growth, accelerated growth, and then if you then think forward, well, what's going to happen to society if AI is taking people's jobs? Well, how do you grow in that situation? And that's probably down the line when AI is then driving the cost of everything right down, and theoretically the cost of everything falls to zero at some point. We're an awfully long way away from that in London right now, I can tell you. But if we look over a small, sensible time horizon of, say, 12 to 18 months from now, businesses are looking to grow. They're not looking to shrink.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely that. It's to some degree at this stage where we are, when we talk about productivity and augmentation, we use those sort of words. When I was, again, researching this, it's analogous to the world that, again, you and I used to live in to some degree, Ben, that of outtasking and outsourcing, where we were talking about, if we were talking about outtasking an IT function, we were in IT services for a while, weren't we? We were talking about how we outtask an IT function. We never took over their whole IT function. We took over elements of it where we could do a better job, maybe better, faster, cheaper. That to some degree is analogous to AI. And that was always about growth for the customer. They wanted to redeploy those people to get them into parts of the business whereby they could use their skills to grow the organization. So it's analogous that to me, very much when you look at this stage. I have to caveat it with at this stage. So if you look at the Forbes slide, Ben, if you can just go to that one,
sure.
it's just something I just wanted to pull out of this. It's a little bit same, i.e. they got their opinion on what the numbers are on this, that, and the other. But this is more of a human aspect, and Ben touched on it early on, where some of you listening into this or watching this might well have already been affected in terms of your role. And the statement, I'll read it out actually. They say, but so what we're saying here is that people are going to be redeployed, retrained to do other jobs, or better jobs, sorry, other jobs. Okay, maybe more skilled jobs where they can use some of their latent skills. But it says, but what if you work for 30 years in one of the jobs that's about to vanish? Okay, maybe these task-based jobs, and they have no idea how you do any of the new ones. And that's a conundrum that we'll probably come back to that. I won't cover it now, but it's just a really interesting comment, I thought. So if you've been here, to say me, I was in a job for 30 years, let's say, or in a career for 30 years, if suddenly that vanished for whatever reason, could I retrain at my age? Would I want to retrain at my age? Have I got the capability? Have I got the gumption? I think that's a really interesting comment. It's human side to things, really. I just want to touch on it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I guess that I hadn't considered that. I'd considered the early careers jobs. So is AI going to automate out the need for early careers? So you've made that point, and Forbes, I think, have got that right, that you've also got the people up here who've done the job for 30 years. Are they realistically going to retrain now?
Yeah,
possibly not. And so you've almost got two ends of that of the spectrum, of the working life spectrum, but a bunch of people in the middle who presumably, if they're being augmented to make them more effective, they're going to be net beneficiaries out of this situation, whereas the cohorts below them and above them are not. So I think that's a really interesting insight, actually.
it is, and I will mention it now because it's sort of, we'll come back out of this. I'll just go down a rabbit hole and then come back out, Ben. So help me a little bit if I do, we go too far. Is where in theory, call it the top and the bottom, should we say, in terms of demographics, and a lot of the lower skilled jobs that maybe get augmented or the tasks get taken over tend to be the lower paid jobs. You've got some socioeconomic situations that could come out of this as well, which is why we're seeing things like governments, the UK government with the AI Act or the EU AI Act, there's debate going on in the US now about if this does create some sort of socio-economic challenge for us as a population or a country, what do we do about that? And, you know, you on one of your podcasts recently, we're talking about universal basic income. There's this conversation in the States about if the AI and big tech companies are beneficiaries of this, should they then be supporting the people that aren't the beneficiaries there? This is probably the subject for a whole mixed podcast, but it's just very, very interesting what may come from this unforeseen circumstance, I suppose.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I kind of, perhaps I'll try. I don't think our governments have got a clue what to do about this in the long term. There isn't a plan, right, for moving to universal basic income.
No.
Now, my view on that is, what do? You reposition if you need to quickly. You take control of your own training. Training's just like so easy now, especially around AI, actually. So you reposition, you train, and you train to use AI really effectively. And then whatever you can, you invest into AI companies, equities, essentially. That's how I think you stay on the right side of what's coming. I don't want to be a passenger on the UBI, universal basic income. I don't want to be sat there waiting for that check to come through the post or land in my digital ID'd bank account. Thank you very much. And see what Keir Starmer, and it won't matter if it's Labour or Conservatives or whatever, or Republicans or Democrats. All of that will fall away at that point, and there'll probably be one, probably the World Economic Forum or whatever, transferring this money to you. But I would rather not be in the situation where I'm totally reliant upon that UBI. I just don't see how it's. I think it's where it's going. I mean, Elon Musk said a couple of years back, he said it's obvious that's what's going to end up happening, and I think he's right. But it's blooming scary to be on the end of that trade. I'd rather be at the other end of the trade. Right, maybe I've got 6, 7, 8 years before that point in time. Let me get proactive, reposition, and get invested.
Yeah,
invest in some of the companies, right?
I think you're absolutely spot on, Ben. It's sort of either do something about it, or something will be done to you, won't it? It's that sort of thought process, really, that we want hopefully our children to the tops. Rather than they're behind the curve. So we'll touch on this a little bit more actually in a minute too.
Let's go to some good news, shall we?
Yes, absolutely. It's come out. I told you it was a bit of a rabbit hole. Yeah, so this is Klarna, and again, you spoke about this in one of your previous podcasts. Klarna effectively replacing their 700 customer services employees with AI. But it now appears that what they're trying to do, the CEO there is actually trying to re-employ some of those people. I haven't quite got my head around it. It's some sort of Uber model that they're trying to use. So I'll need to research that a bit more. But basically, they're trying to re-employ some of those people because what they're finding is the quality of customer services has gone down. It's just a little bit lower quality because that human interaction isn't there. I think this is one case. I think you've got some others where basically the human and the AI agent work together. Was an automotive one in one of your previous podcasts, actually, Ben. I think this is just an interesting example where I'm a great believer in pendulums in business, and sometimes you have to swing them over to create change quite a long way, which is obviously what Klarna did. And sometimes they'll come back not to where they were, but to where they probably should be. And this is maybe the position they'll want to be for a couple of years before they get more industrialized about their use of AI, or indeed supplementing the skills or amalgamating the skills of basically AI agents and indeed humans. So I thought it was really interesting that they're actually doing this now.
Yeah, and I think it's quite helpful that Sebastian, who's the CEO at Klarna, he's very talkative about this stuff. He's got good good presence on X. Definitely one to follow. When he said previously, "Oh, we're going to kick out Salesforce.com," just that was again that I don't think that ever happened. That was a lot of words, a lot of noise, maybe for different reasons. But no, I think it's important and it's good to see because customer services. This is my point around automation versus augmentation. Automating out a job role is so difficult. And look, customer services, it's been outsourced forever. One of my customers, who was a local council, so regional government in the UK, they've been outsourcing their contact center since the early 90s. So organizations have been trying to make customer services work better and make it more efficient and cost them less money for 30 odd years. So now the fact, and when AI came out, and one of the early episodes I did was on AI voice agents, and it was just meant to decimate customer services. But again, it transforms it. It's transformational technology, but it's augmenting maybe less humans in the loop, but humans in the loop nonetheless. And I don't think the AI technologies are there yet to genuinely automate out something as important, as intimate as customer services within your business.
Yeah, definitely. And it sort of, this leads on to the next sort of area we're going to go down to a little bit, which is about skills and talent and what organizations are doing about that. The headline in here is about Microsoft cutting 9,000 jobs that invest in AI. And you think, oh, crikey me, that's not good. That's not good at all. However, what you actually do, if you look under the surface of this sort of thing, what they're actually doing is they're augmenting some of those jobs with AI, but also they're reinvesting that budget and more and lots more, so plus, in AI investments, which creates jobs. Similarly, if you flick over to the next one, Ben, sorry, very quickly, we'll just do this at one. Salesforce, similar sort of thing. They've not announced major job cuts that I'm aware, but you'll have seen, certainly if you're in the UK, they're investing an additional 2 billion, I think it is, in UK business throughout through to 2030. That will bring their investment up to 6 billion, and that will be their AI hub in Europe. Similar story, IBM, 150 billion commitment to US technology over the next 5 years, including 30 billion specifically for R&D, quantum computing, and AI. So it's really interesting what these big tech companies are doing now. They're actually really focusing on their efforts where, to Ben's point, they believe growth is. But that is undoubtedly going to create a massive swelling requirement for jobs and high-level skills as well. In truth, well-paid jobs, one imagines. That's what we're beginning to see. The headlines tend to be, like most press and some human beings, we like doom and gloom. It's the things we remember, but there's a lot of good news behind this if you look for them. And there's some really interesting announcements over the last 3 months about some of these big investments. But so skills is going to be an interesting area, how the workforce gets skilled and skilled rapidly. So what we're beginning to see as well is people not only talk about investment in technology, but IBM made a statement fairly recently that they're going to reskill or skill, I think it's 2 million people in AI or AI related jobs. So you'll see these sort of investments go in as well, where people are really, really getting behind the people. Thanks.
Yeah,
I think it's a sub note to this one.
Yeah, and look, there's lots of investment going on with these mega cap companies now. I mean, Nvidia's larger market cap than the UK, Germany, and France GDPs put together now, I think. And I think Canada, throw that Canada into the mix on that one as well. So again, it's about being on the right side of that trade, isn't it? And this just wasn't around before. I mean, AI and machine learning has been around for, I don't know, probably 20 years, probably, actually. But generative AI as soon as that came out, and that was the Chat GPT moment, that was when the world changed, and that was the industrial revolution moment. And the financial revolution that happened, pick a economic revolution, and it changes absolutely everything. Those who get themselves on the right side through luck or judgment do very, very well out of it. And then there's a bunch of job roles that aren't there anymore. That's the way it is. And as we said before, do I think taxis will be driverless in 6-7 years? Yeah, I would bet on autonomy around taxis and robotics improving massively, and I think, and that's, again, it's all going to drive prices down and growth upwards. So I think that's really good to see these investments. It's not just, and as you said, it's not just technology, it's people as well.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of these skills don't exist. I mean, there was, I forget who it was. One of the big tech companies, we're talking about another of the big tech companies. I wish I could bring this to life a little bit if I remember the names, about them trying to poach some of their senior staff and offering them $1 million signing on bonuses. Now, I'm not saying we're all going to get those, but that just gives you, that's the tip of the iceberg, clearly. But it just shows you what's happening, that there's a dearth of skills out there at this moment in time. And to your point, Ben, if you get the right side of that, whatever level that's at, you're probably in a pretty good place, actually.
Yeah, I think that's Meta X and OpenAI. Well, it's just like open, all competing for the kind of data scientists, really top level AI resources, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it just does show you that that's where the market is. And as we've said, it's been said on a bunch of podcasts, but we've said it too. First of all, don't fear AI taking your job. Fear someone using AI taking your job. And I think that's the same for businesses as well. I think that applies to businesses. I think it's like, you do need to be careful. If another business in your sector or market vertical who does what you do starts using AI in a meaningful way to provide better customer experience than you do for less money, then expect to be disrupted, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that's the nature of any large scale change to a global workforce, which is what all this is, isn't it? The other point you made, Alan, and I meant to mention it when you said about Klarna bringing them they want to bring the workers back in kind of like this Uber-y model, and maybe is it full time?
That's right. Yeah.
Or not? I also can see companies changing from the model of we just have loads of full-time employees, something changing there. So it's not, so we bring in skills as and when we need it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just make sure we didn't move off that, because I thought that was a really interesting point. I didn't realize that about that Klarna rehiring.
Well, that's right. It's a good headline, but it's this Uber model, and I think you're right. I think, and particularly, I can't talk for a Generation Z because I'm not one of them, clearly, but I think, from what I understand about Generation Z, that's the type of thing they like to do, is be a little bit more transient in their work, move around where the interesting projects are, where the interesting work is, maybe a different geography that they want to work in. It's just employers will have to respond to that. They can't say, no, we're a bricks and mortar, you've got to come and work there, because people just won't come. So they've got to appeal to the workforce. Therefore, I agree with you completely. Those business models, or call them employment models, will change. I think that, and this will help exacerbate it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That's going to be really interesting. And of course, I heard on the All In podcast, who do a great job on this stuff, they were saying that startups in the US now, in the Valley, are starting up with 50% less people than they needed than they used to need to, thanks to the use of AI agents. So it, yeah, then that's going to filter through, isn't it? As these companies, like what were the Airbnbs, the Dropboxes, that kind of Y Combinator cohort, as they become more established companies, they're going to have less, maybe less full-time workers, and then they're going to bring in people as they need them. And you mentioned there, Alan, that doesn't need to be seen as a massive threat. If you view it as, well, okay, fine. So I've got 3 employers, not 1. So I work for these guys sometimes, then these guys, and this time of year for these people, that time of year for those people. And I can work wherever I want, doing whatever I want, as long as I'm within a time zone.
Yeah.
Then fine. We're already seeing companies doing that, aren't we? Saying, yeah, you just got to be within a 4-hour time zone of base camp for the company, and that's fine too. And that was kind of thanks to COVID, really.
Yes. Yeah. Very much. Very much. So this was something you highlighted to me the other day, wasn't it? This future. There's a Stanford University report. I don't know if it's a report as such, but about the future of work with AI agents. So basically, what people are thinking about, as it says, are thinking about working with AI agents. So it's not that augmentation line you were going down, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think what's interesting about what Stanford, this is Stanford University Future of Work with AI Agents. It's a report. It's a nice piece of work, actually. Add the links, I should say, add the link, all the links to everything that we've been talking about will be in the show notes. But it's a nice piece of work. So do go take a look at the full report. What I found interesting was 2 sections where they've said, where are workers going to be resistant to AI agent automation? But also, conversely, where do workers want AI agent automation? And then they did a really nice matrix. But I'll talk through this then initially. So, where do workers resist AI agent in automation? And they analysed a whole bunch of kind of job roles and kind of common fears, and 16.3% was down to the absence of human qualities or capabilities in AI. So the AI is not human enough. And so, okay, fine. And then the 23% was fear of job replacement, meaning people are resistant. And yeah, I can totally understand that. And then 45% is lack of trust in AI systems' accuracy, capability, or reliability. Now, when you tie that back in to the MIT report on the state of AI in business, saying that a dramatically high number of proof of concepts are failing, people have been pulling back on AI deployments because they've not done the readiness piece sufficiently and got the data sorted out, and they've just rushed in probably into a technology deployment, and guess what, it doesn't work, and that is going to breed a lack of trust. So absence of human qualities, fear of job replacement, and lack of trust in the AI system's accuracy, capability, or reliability totally makes sense to me. And there you go, and there's the air brakes on the job displacement right there.
Yeah, it is interesting. Just to pick up on the things you said there. I mean, you and I, again, from our backgrounds, trust is intrinsically important to us as human beings, but also what we do for livings is building trust. And that, again, it's probably a whole nother podcast, really, is, how do we get to the point where we can trust? I'm just thinking, if I was a worker, to the point where you can trust the accuracy, capability, and reliability of an AI agent. How do you get to that point? When do you get to that proof point? It's a difficult one. But
it is.
Will need to.
It's difficult because it's back to how much do you trust your data? How much does data that you have, that you train your AI model on, then make the AI model biased?
Yes.
And what's the truth? And so it's going to be very difficult for businesses to implement AI and especially with like 5,000 plus AI agents being relentlessly marketed at businesses, all promising to achieve X, Y, and Z outcomes. No, it's not going to be that easy. And if something's not going to be that easy, and you don't have JP Morgan's 2 billion a year AI budget, that means it's not going to happen as quickly as maybe everyone thinks. But interestingly, the next part of the report I found really interesting from Stanford was part 3, which is, why do workers want AI agent automation? And let's go through the list, because I think I can totally understand there's a desire for this, and so there was automating the task would free up time for high value work. Next was, this task is repetitive or tedious. And automating this task would improve the quality of my work. Then you've got, the task is stressful or mentally draining. And then this task is complicated or difficult. But by far, the highest response rate in terms of desire was, automating the task would free up, I guess, my time for high value work. And again, every chief executive and CIO I speak to are all saying that's their initial goal. It's not automating the person out of the HR department. It's automating the tedious, mundane, monotonous tasks that they're having to do, that's keeping them from you being able to focus them on their more high value activities.
Yeah, it's really interesting as you're walking through this, Ben. I'm just thinking back on let's call it my corporate career, which is a little bit more tangible, should we say? And all of these, I can think of things I've done or had to do that apply in all of these categories. Actually, all of them.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? And a lot of the work I did probably was like that as well.
Yeah.
The exciting was going and speaking to customers. That was always the good bit.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, so I really like their perspective. And then, lastly, from the Stanford report, they did this kind of nice, I really kind of like this matrix. So for anybody who can't see the screen, they plotted work on the vertical axis. They plotted worker rated automation desire. So that goes from like 0 to 5, how much people actually want automation versus not want automation. And then, so that's on the vertical. And then on the horizontal axis, you've got then 0 to 5 of AI expert rated automation capability. So how good is the AI already at automation of certain tasks? And so then you've got these quadrants that appear, which I found really interesting. So where you've got a high level of AI capability and a high level of desire from the worker to have automation, that's in what they've called the automation green light zone, which is the top right-hand quadrant. It's a bit like a kind of Gartner magic quadrant thing. So that's green light. That's the green light zone. And they've given some like bizarre examples, but tax preparers, so jobs of preparing a schedule, preparing tax returns, I guess that is, schedule appointments with clients involved in that process. They want that automated out of there. Quality control system managers to check regular reported quality control data. Then mechanical engineers read and interpret reports because they're fed up. This is the sort of stuff that these workers just hate about their jobs. And actually, if you do pick those sorts of tasks for an AI or an AI agent, then the AI agent's pretty good at those. It can do the mundane a lot better than a human. Again, Thomas Odenwald's and Matt on last week's episode's point is, it's going to be shit out on data if it's shit in. So you've got to get your data fixed. But I thought that was really interesting, that's the green light zone, where you're going to get no resistance from your staff for automating with AI. Happy days, right?
Yeah, and I guess again, it's going back to my personal experience. I'm sure anyone listening into this podcast as well can think of things that they don't enjoy in their jobs that they would like to either part or in entirety get rid of, so they can do other things that they enjoy or are more skilled at, or everyone.
Yeah, it's and so I can see this view of the world, if you like, just continuing to change as workers who don't have our kind of like level of daily, probably like hourly involvement with AI.
Mhm.
I think a lot of those workers are going to look at AI and go, that is brilliant. Take the crappy job away from me, please, so I can go and do the stuff that I want to do, maybe be more proactive in my job role. And that for me is where I think the next 12 months, 12 to 18 months is, unless you can really see that, yeah, that my role is literally getting automated out. And then what choice have you got other than accepting that and going, right, what are my options to reposition here, and just get on with it as quickly as possible.
I think that's probably, if we were sort of going to the wrap now, Ben, I think that's a great way to wrap it, because we were on email last night, weren't we? And I was just saying one of the things that I think about. I'm very fortunate to have three boys, a couple slightly older than my younger one. So I'll talk about my younger one. He's just doing his last year at uni, and he's doing pretty well. But occasionally he won't, boys don't come and say, what should I do? They don't sort of cover that. It's always a bit guarded, But he's looking for a bit of guidance, and sometimes it's very difficult to give some guidance around this sort of area. But I think what you said is absolutely spot on. Is think about what you're doing and get the right side of it. Get ahead of things if you can. That's where you need to spend your time. So it's answered my question. It's quite good, Ben. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll try to help in the parenting. Thanks. I don't always get it right. You can ask my kids about that. But yeah, let's wrap up there. And my final point on that would be, is I say to my daughter, hey, the concept of, I choose a career, like it's like, what do you want to be when you leave school? The concept of choosing a thing that you're then going to do forevermore. I mean, that kind of was kind of over anyway, let's face it, but I think that's definitely over now, and there's nothing wrong with finding a starting point, getting really good at something, gaining experience, then you pivot, then you transition to the next thing, right? And that's what I've done all the way through my career, and no doubt will continue to do. And I think that keeps things very, very interesting. But I'd say, hey, be careful of the fearful mind, and force yourself to take a look at the opportunity coming out of this. And Alan, I think you've done a great job bringing some of those scary mainstream media stories, but also balancing that with a view of a new world of work where there's a potentially a lot more control from what used to be the employee moving forwards. But we'll keep on top of it. Maybe we should kind of do this every 4 months or something, because it's all moving so quickly. But Alan, thanks very much for for bringing all that on today. I thought it was great insights. Thank you.
Pleasure.